Hello. We continue with our Tanya lessons. This is our, it's like Tanya. And we have done 63 sets of our recordings every morning. And we have, there's a 53 uh, lessons in the first main volume of Tanya. And we have covered in 63 sessions, 40 chapters out of 53, 40 chapters. It will be interesting to get now a little summary of what we're talking about. And let's illustrate it. We'll do the anatomy of the Tanya. What is exactly what Tanya brings a lot of Kabbalah and links it with Torah and links it with Mishnah, with prophets. Um, so it basically tells us how to become united with God and how to solve problems between man and God, between God and man, between man and man, between people. So let's take a look at our chart. We share the screen, all right, and we'll get the, where's my chart? There it is. Okay, well, it looks like confusing chart, but bear with me. If you're interested, if it's too confusing, I guess I lose you, I lost you, then I guess we'll meet on the baseball field. But if you're interested, let's stick with that. We'll continue. There's A, B, C, and D portions of this chart, which really summarizes entire Tanya in my mind. First point, the person, the man, woman, and God. This is God's eye, so to speak. The person wants to get close to God. Some people don't want to get close to God, but those they do is feel they are close enough. Not everybody is unhappy about it. Some people say they're too much. Some people feel they can't get enough closeness to God. And of course, we mentioned this before that Tanya says that the Kabbalah states that you can become completely merged with light, and there's a lot of Talmudic examples how, well, even in the Torah it says that Moses could not see the face of God. He wanted to because God says, the human being cannot see my face and live. It's almost an analogy I'm making. If you have glasses, you have to put your glasses on to look at the sun. If you take the glasses off, you're going to burn your eyes if you look directly at the sun. Spiritual light of God over here cannot be seen directly with the person, but you have to put your glasses. And once you do that, you filter the lights. And the filtering the lights, now you see the world not exactly the same. It's similar clothes, but if you put a lot of glasses, you'll get the idea. You can relate to the world. You can look at the sun. You can see the light without being blind, but you don't see the true essence. And if the person wants to get a true essence, Tanya said, don't torture yourself so much. It's impossible. That's what it says. Impossible. But there's a way to get there if you do it not just brute force, connect, get on a spaceship and fly to the sun, get on a spiritual spaceship and fly to God. But instead, this is section B, the person has a soul. And Tanya said they have two souls. They have a divine soul, an animal soul, which surrounds the divine soul. And between them, there's a connecting klipa, and outside the animal soul, there's a klipa and connects it like a shell of the orange, connects it to the body. Here's a divine soul and animal soul. Animal soul connects to the body. Divine soul also has several layers. We talk about nefesh. We talk about the several grades of the soul itself, nefesh, ruach, neshama, and they belong. Neshama resides on the lowest world, asiya, then ruach on the next one, which is the yetzirah, then in world of biriya, neshama, and then in Atzilut, the highest world, before it goes right to Ein Sof, to God, essentially God light. All the souls belong and reside. But for simplicity's sake, we'll say that neshama, divine soul, it's surrounded by the garments of thought and speech. and an animal soul has a garment of action. So we want to elevate, we want to use thought, speech, and action to elevate our souls, both of them, to unite with a divine light. And when you think about it, there's two ways that you want to be united with something. You can either bring that light close to you, or you can bring yourself closer, elevate yourself up. The pull and the push concept. And Tanya goes through both. Tanya basically is saying that your divine soul, it's all about you, but it's not about your body you, it's about your spiritual you, the good you, so to speak. Animal soul is also not bad. Animal soul helps you, makes you functional. You go to work, you perform, you eat, you do everything we do today. That's done by animal soul. But animal soul also makes you want things selfishly that you really shouldn't do. So our charter is to eliminate that desire in the animal soul for the bad things and transform into the good things. And of course, Tanya talks about tzaddikim, Rasha, bad, and then Benoni, which most of the people in betweeners, how they can handle this process. So coming to our chart here, so the person can, in other words, we cannot see God directly. We can feel it, we can relate to it, but we can't get quite close right to it, merge with him. Tanya talks about the unity, non-duality of God. Not this is me and this is God. Tanya said that's not the Jewish concept. I am God. I am part of him. Like my arms, my legs, my head, my eyes, my nose are part of me. It's not this is me and this is my arms. So this is all about together. Even though at the same time I can distinguish this is arm, this is leg, this is head, and yet it's all one. That's like that analogy? Okay. So if we would use three things, prayer, Torah study, and mitzvot, good deeds. Those three things helps us elevate our soul. How? The Torah study essentially elevates divine soul towards Shekhinah, toward divine light, and it makes divine light become penetrating the soul. Once it happens, you're in a bliss. You're sitting on the top of the mountain and you just love the unity with God. But that is not the purpose of the creation. God created the world, Tanya says, in order to make several layers from the very highest spiritual level to the lowest physical level. And then he created the forces to resist the merging of these worlds unless we will apply our free will in order to transform the lowest world. And here, if you jump on this portion D, which shows Ein Sof, divine light, then Atzilut, Beriah, Yetzirah, Asiya, the highest world Atzilut, then word of Beriah, the word of Yetzirah, and the word Asiya, the lowest world in which spiritually and physically we belong, people, animals, non-organic, non-organic matters, all in the world of Asiya. In fact, Tanya says, in the world of Yetzirah, angels belong. And angels, in the previous lessons, we learned that angels and rocks and animals are the same. No, sorry, angels and animals, not rocks. The same. Surprisingly, how can they be the same? Well, they don't have a free will. Animals have the soul, they connect to God. Angels connect to God, but they have no other choice. And angels are void of the free choice. But people, by applying certain methods, as we're discussing now by Tanya, can jump over Yetzirah right into what's on Beriah, and a special, and not only tzaddikim, usually tzaddikim, but even regular people on Shabbat can go from Asiya not just to Yetzirah, which we can do relatively easy, so to speak, but even towards Beriah. Because on Shabbat, God brings the world closer down to us to make it easier. But in normal times, we can only get to the word of Beriah, tzaddikim. Tzaddikim even can get temporarily in the word Atzilut, but we're not going to go through all details. Anyway, so let's go back to our chart. So by studying the Torah, Shekhinah is coming to the divine soul, but God says, my your plan, your reason for creation, and the reason for your being here, your purpose, sir, Mrs., Miss, Mr., your purpose is to bring divine light down to this world. Because Tanya said, if God decided to create limited number of worlds and not going really down to the lowest world, what was the point? Even in the world of Berea, in Yetziras, you still, even in the world of Tzilut, you can't finally become one with God. You still have limitations. So you have a limitation. What do you achieve? If you have a limitation, might as well go to the lowest level and then give a free choice to people so if we can transform the lowest level to the divine, bring divine light to the lowest world, you accomplish something. It's almost like, imagine the coach has a football team and they have a great players. And a coach concentrate on getting there's a couple of guys that are not very strong, they're kind of a little bit being picked on, the kids. And the coach pays a lot of attention to them and wants them to become better players. Well, everybody's saying, why are you spending so much time with these guys? They have no talent, they can't play football. Well, this is a muscle guy. He's 350 pounds. He can play ball. Concentrate on those. And yet coach wants to concentrate to the weakest one. And if the good coach because it's not a matter of getting the trophy. It's not a matter to become famous and be written in the papers and get millions of dollars a contract. To that coach, it's important that this kid that didn't have much belief in himself, but he tried, he now became a better football player. Maybe not the best, but now he's proud of himself. That accomplishment to a good coach, to a heartful coach, is a lot better than making a really great superstar player earning, instead of $10 million a year, at $50 a year. A lot better accomplishment would you do somebody who had nothing to get something. That's the whole idea of God created this lowest world, and we are in it. So by bringing the Shekhinah, the Spirit of God, into the world to connecting your soul to that, is still limited. So then, through the mitzvot, good deeds. So Torah study is basically thoughts and speech, not the action really. We talk about a little bit moving our lips, a little bit of action, but now God says to us, Tanya relates that mitzvot are actually actions. So by the doing actions, they have a way to bring the Shekhinah light, God's light, into animal soul. And once it's in animal soul, divine soul, which by now is saturated with Shekhinah light that we created by the Torah, becomes like a catalyst, the key ignition to get animal soul connect to the body. And now God is brought into a physical world. The divine soul has a dressing, has a cover of action. Divine soul is thoughts and speech, but animal soul is action. So between thought, speech, and action, you have entire package, and that's how divine light brought into this world, how physicality is attached to spirituality. On Shabbat, when ladies light the candle, the light wants to come up to God, to Shekhinah, but it cannot separate from the candle, because if it does, the candle will extinguish. So the job of the light is to connect to Hashem, connect to something spiritual, but not to separate from the candle. There are stories in Talmud, famous story, Rabbi Akiva and 3 other sages went to heaven, and one died, one burned, he got 2 clothes. Another one went insane. One became heretic. And only Rabbi Akiva came back because he was able to combine both physical and spiritual world. And that ability to combine is done by a pre-thought, number 4 garment, which is the root of the concept of the feeling, if you will. Just you feel that something needs to be done, but it's not even in your thought. It's not visualized, it's not verbalized. That overall feeling integrates the entire idea and makes it a unity with God. So that is the object of, and so by the Tanya then continues saying, like chapter 37, 38, I guess, the divine soul is kind of in exile. Divine soul liked it a lot more when it was in paradise with God. It was with God, it observed God, it was in paradise. Now he's saying, you send me to, I don't know, to Australia somewhere from New York City. I had a very great time with observing the light of community or whatever. Now I'm this in this mission. Well, but actually, yeah, Saul is in this difficult situation, but Saul appreciates that the tasks. Eventually, you'll come back to the light in a world to come, so to speak. After death, it comes back. But when a soul comes back, it still is not coming directly into God, merging with light, but sitting on the highest level, let's say on the level of Atzilut, or maybe in Berea, and contemplates and sees God without glasses. Glasses are off, but it's still not one with God. So before Saul came in, it was witnessing God. After Saul goes back after this world, it also witnesses God nicely, beautifully, enjoys it. It's like in Hawaii with a cup of tea or Coca-Cola at the beach, having great time, so to speak. In this world, well, it's difficult. There's a war, so there's this, there's that. How can I make humanity rehabilitate itself? That's its task. Well, Soul appreciates it. It's tough, but that's my job. I'll come back to it. But in the meantime, even in this world, it's possible to become even more than the time before it came or the time after it comes back to God. And that is by this Torah study and mitzvot, it can physically become one with it. Well, then if you look also on this chart C, that is concept tzimtzum. We all heard about tzimtzum, contraction. Universe, entire God contracted himself. Difficult to understand how God could contract himself. Contract, make smaller. If he is smaller, he has less power. Or God is all power. It's impossible. Well, it's a Kabbalistic concept that we're not going to discuss about here, but there is a concept that they can do it. Everything is God, yet he has given us a freedom of choice, which something he doesn't want to interfere, so they might look like God is not in control of that. And another illustration of that concept of this tzimtzum is that filtering that we talked about. This is a 10 sphirot, Kabbalistic sphirot, Ein Sof, infinite light, Chokhmah, Bina, Dat, which is the upper Gan Eden, and then another 6 sphirot, the lower Gan Eden, comes to Malchut, the lowest world. So this concept kind of illustrates what we have here from Atzilut, Berea, Yetzirah, and Asiya, except those 10 sphirot, they belong in each world. In Atzilut, there are 10 sphirot, in Berea, Yetzirah, and Asiya. They are there on different strengths, different levels. But once, if you hook up to the Asiya through the Chokhmah, this one here, the highest sphirah, that Chokhmah then can connect through the Chokhmah of the same structure in the Yetzirah, and from there to Berea, from there to Atzilut, and then to the infinite light Ein Sof. So that is the mechanism, if you will, dynamics of how that works. So in other words, with the Torah studies, we bring this light to us. But with mitzvot, Tanya says the Torah study brings the soul in higher levels, depending on the concentration, higher and higher level of the world, spiritualities. But it's all about us, a little bit selfish. But to bring this down, mitzvot are bring the light down to us. So we mix somewhere in the middle. It's a two-way process. We elevate our souls. And Tanya says souls and mitzvot basically different. The soul can be elevated into the vessel, Kabbalistic vessel in each of this world. The higher the effort, the higher the level you can elevate yourself. But the light of God to which you merge with, not just getting close to, like in a vessel, like you're in a room, but you're not part of the room. That is done by by mitzvot. Mitzvot is like a bird, and Kabbalah goes, Tanya, so Kabbalah goes, mitzvah is like a bird, and two wings is two wings of a bird is reverence and love. And that bird brings your mitzvah up to the infinite light. So that is a mechanism how you can become one with God. But now Tanya then chapter 39, 40 talks about the intensity of that. Tanya talks about that light also can be thought of, gets filtered down as it comes to us from the upper world by filtering like opaque filter. Sometimes like, our eyes with age gets a little bit foggy. I forget how you call that things that it doesn't, you see it, but it's a little bit fog. Or like aperture of the camera. You can have a small aperture or big aperture. Now Tanya brings in the concept of kavanah, spiritual connection. So when you pray and when you your Torah study, when you do mitzvah, you can do it either with intention, strong intentions, or not intention, or something in between. And depending on your concentration, kavanah in prayer, Tanya, by the way, says when you pray, says with the Shema Israel, it's more important to quietly, but verbalize, say Shema Israel, Hashem Eloheinu, Hashem Echad. You have to say it quietly. If you just think about it, you think you're in paradise, you didn't fulfill your obligation, actually. But if you are concentrating with a kavanah and say it both, now you are satisfied the requirements of bringing the light down by saying it, and yet you bring the aperture card wider. You bring the light much greater intensity, much greater volume, as you would if you. So Tanya even compares, well, you're like a dead body if you're just saying things without kavanah. Yes, you bring the light, but it's so little. You fulfill the requirements of the prayer, but it's very, very little. Then Tanya also talks about the levels of the mitzvah. If you do mitzvah, no, let's talk about Torah study for the divine soul. Torah for divine soul, mitzvah for the animal soul. The Torah study can be with kavanah, with true desire, or neutral. In other words, you're saying that things, you've done it for many years, but you think about a football game. You're not against Torah, you love it, you're very much with Hashem, you feel connection, but it's kind of like you finish your prayer, says, did I say this prayer? You forgot. Or you do it for selfish purposes. Like, I want to do it because I want to be a scholar and great respect. Not a good thing. The first one goes right to the divine light. The second neutral one gets stuck there. And to get it unstuck, you have to repeat it, and then it gets unstuck without praise. If you do it really completely selfishly, then it can still fix it, but you have to make teshuva. You have to realize one day, and Tanya says that everybody gets to the point eventually, sooner or later, to do the teshuva, that you can say, how is this doing for selfish purposes? And then it lifts up that Torah study benefits and lift your soul up towards Shekhinah and Shekhinah to you, and you fulfill this. You fulfill it. You've done it. You did it. Still, Tanya says, if you even do it for selfish purposes, it's still better than not doing it all. It's not so good. It's not getting elevated, but later on, a year from now, a day from now, 10 years from now, it can get elevated with the teshuva. Mitzvah also has three levels. You can do mitzvah because you really want to help this person. You want to do this mitzvah. Or you just do it, listen, somebody asked me for $1, here, I give him $1 and drive on because, my parents told me I have to help poor people. So here's $1. Or you don't, you do mitzvah, but you do it selfishly. I'm going to give this guy $10 so that if my car gets stuck, maybe he will give me jumper cables to help me. That's selfish purpose, but you're still doing mitzvah. The first one is wonderful. The second one can be fixed by repeating the mitzvah. It didn't go up. Mitzvah didn't go to merge. Soul goes into the chambers, into the vessels to absorb God. But mitzvah actually gets you merged with the light, with God. Makes it unity. Mitzvah does it. Amazingly, body actions, activity. So that mitzvah goes in if you repeat it. So in other words, next time you give this guy $10, $3, whatever, that is the beggar who asks you to help him, not because here's a dollar, but yeah, I need this guy needs help. Here it is. Please take it. Now that's fixed. Your previous mitzvah that you did it without that desire coming out also now gets elevated and merged with the line. And if you did it for selfish purposes, very selfish purposes, you have to mitzvot, you have to do repeat it. Sorry, repeat it. I lost track a little bit. Okay. So that is a concept of becoming unity with God. Very interesting chart, don't you think? It's most people would say, listening to this, why do I need to know details? I just want to be a good person and live my good life. And if I have any problems, I want to pray to God, and God will help me. And if it doesn't help me, well, I guess that's his choice. Well, I guess people who have more analytical mind like to look at the charts to help them visualize the process. People who are more kind of emotional mind, more picture-related mind, or conceptual mind, probably don't need this chart. They probably understand everything I said just intuitively. They don't need this help. But those who do might find it interesting and hopefully useful. That takes care of 40 chapters. So we talk about how to connect with God, divine soul, animal soul, and then the level of connections, diminution of light by filtering versus aperture. In other words, less intensity versus less quantity. Less intensity is the lens, less quantity is aperture of the camera. And then mechanism how to fix it. And now you understand why the light, even though it wants to go to separate from the candle, but it knows I really would like to be there, but I have to be here. That's my job. It's proud to be that messenger of God in this world. What else we can add? That's I think it's essence. Oh, one more thing I want to add. This I made a note not to forget. When you study, interesting, it probably counterintuitive to some of you, maybe to most of you. In these four worlds, Asiya, Yetzirah, Beriah, Tzilut, we want to pull the light down. If we're studying Torah, it pulls us all the way through all those worlds to the lowest level. It illuminates the lowest dungeon, the lowest basement. Study of the scriptures is the strongest one. If you're studying Mishnah, oral Torah, you can get it only to the level Yetzirah, quite a lot. That's the level of the angels, not physicality. If you go and study Talmud, Gemara, you pull it down to a level of Beriah. And if you study Kabbalah, you only pull it to the world Atzilut, the highest of the world. So you are studying Kabbalah, you're in the highest world, but it doesn't fulfill entire purpose of the creation, bring the light. The purpose is to bring the light all the way from the Ein Sof down to the lowest, to Asiya. But you want to be refined on all of the world. So it's nothing wrong with studying Kabbalah and Gemara, Talmud, and Mishnah, and the Torah, and everything else. And when you do that, you're in all levels. You're spiritually close, like selfish connection, and yet you're physically close. You do mitzvot, help other people, which is the world of Asiya. And you are somewhere in between. In the world of angels, you do it because you have to do it. You know it's the right thing to do. And you want on Beriah, which is a spiritual world, but achieved not by just pure love of God, but the love generated intellectually. You understand that your love is genuine. You understand it by your brain, not just, many people say, I don't need to study anything. I just feel connection to God. I just love God. That's wonderful, but it's not enough. That's emotional love. That's the love of the heart, the love of the brain. Oddly enough, maybe controversial to some people, is at a much higher level. That it's still love, but it's love that got there through the reverence. It's a two wings, love and reverence of the mitzvah They brought you up to the highest world of the Shekhinah. So that's also interesting point I was going to mention, because in the past, I always thought, before I started thinking more about it, that, well, Kabbalists sitting up on the mountain of Tzofat and thinking about all day long about they are the greatest tzaddikim, they're so wonderful. Well, they're great people, wonderful. But they also have to do the work. They also have to go, and somebody doesn't have anything to eat, they have to feed that person. Somebody's looking for a job, they can help him put together a resume and find a job. So just being on the level of Kabbalah without doing the mitzvot of action is not good enough. It's not to downplay the value of the higher sphere, so to speak, esoteric things. But if you're sitting 25 hours a day and learning Talmud all the time, and then the person next door is poor and who needs to have a right to work and say, I don't have any time because I need to study Torah, you have to reevaluate your priorities. It's wonderful to study Torah, but it also must be balanced with your action of mitzvot. Torah is also one of the mitzvot. And we say in our prayers, Torah, the studying Torah is the greatest of all. Well, studying the Torah is the greatest of all if it helps you bring the light all the way down to all the levels, including the level of Asiya, including the action, not just on the level of the floating on the skies and observing the universe and being happy with yourself. That's why Tanya is saying, when you're observing the light on the high world, the soul comes down there and you're so happy, you're enlightened by this infinite light. That's fine, but it's not good enough. You need to merge with this light by the actions, by the mitzvah, by doing something specifically for other people. Not just to think, not just how much Torah do you know, how many passages, how many words did you learn. If you can quote the passage from the prophets, or a passage from Talmud, and passage from here, and passage from there. Well, in the meantime, there's a poor people walking around, there's a wars, and there's a injustice. And there's a poverty, and there are diseases. And if you don't apply yourself to help fixing that, then your studying is really becomes like poking into the God's eye instead of observing it and becoming one with him. Anyway, that's a summary of 40 chapters. Tomorrow, we'll continue then on chapter 41. And chapter 41 is called, let me just look at it, and that's for tomorrow, a crash course in reverence and love, how to stop worshiping God. And again, worshiping God was saying it's not just sitting and lifting 5 feet up into the air, floating, happy. It is actually combination of the spiritual and this world activities that we need to do. Combination. That's why a good Torah scholar probably should apply himself to become a farmer, or the doctor, or the lawyer, or the truck driver, or the gardener, or the garbage collector, or anything. But you have to combine both things to help people materially and physically, and also not to forget your studies. And of course, many people say, listen, if I go help my neighbor to load the refrigerator, as long as my back doesn't hurt, to the car, that takes me for 15 minutes from learning Torah. Yeah, it will take 15 minutes from learning Torah, but that is Torah. That's what Torah wants you to do. So maybe instead of 25 hours a day, you're only able to learn Torah for half an hour because you work all day long. Well, half an hour, try to make it 40 minutes next week. But don't go to one extreme to another. Be balanced. To each its own. There are the people who are supposed to be in yeshiva and study Torah all day long. They also have to do some worldly occupation. There's the people who are, like in Torah, Zebulun and Issachar, the two brothers. One was a sailor. He got fish, and another one studying Torah. When they got together, the brother said, listen, brother, tell me more about Torah. Teach me Torah. And the guy said, okay, here, I'll teach you Torah. But in the meantime, let's make some fish soup. Let's fry some fish because I'm hungry. So they help each other. And the guy who went fishing into the ocean on the ship wasn't looked down that, well, he doesn't learn enough Torah. He's unlearned guy. No, he is learned guy. He is the same light shines on him with the same benefits and praise as the one who is studying Torah and not going to the sea fishing. So some people go to extreme, only studying Torah, become teachers, and they teach other Torah. Some people go to another extreme. They mostly work all day long, but they still come maybe for 5 minutes, do a prayer in the morning, and do a little bit maybe on Shabbat to do some learning, and anything in between. So it's a combination of both. There are extremes. There is every so often there's some tzaddikim that just studying nonstop, but we also ask them to advise us on problems. So essentially, they do function as helpers to other people. And a person like that, on a big level, very few of them, but maybe 10 in the world. But if you ask this guy a question, he can comment on the Torah. He can explain everything I say now much clearer, much better, and more understandable. So, but that person has a function also, physical function. He will teach us what to do in certain situations. Then there's the people on other extremes who don't learn that much, mostly working. The guy is a bus driver, drives a bus all day long. He learns a little bit of Torah. Overall, we need all entire spectrum from the extreme to the right, extreme to the left, and anything between. Most of us, the bulk of humanity, the bulk of the Jewish people, our charter, I would say 99%, have to find a happy medium in between. To do a prayer, to do a Torah study, to do mitzvot, live in the world of spirituality, and live in the world of material things combined together. That is a message of Tanya. That's a message of Torah. That is a message of God. See you tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Today is, by the way, what's today? Today is April 16, 2024. And by the way, just remind, if you want to hear more about it, we talk about the subject. Let me show it to the camera. See if it's seen. It's on Zoom every Tuesday in English at 1 o'clock US time or 8 o'clock in the evening Israel time. 325-804-5811, password 285775. 325-804-5811, password 285775. And with that, we'll continue, Tanya. I don't want to say I hope you enjoyed it. This is not entertainment class. I hope you found it useful, that it benefits you also not in your studies, but also how to handle life problems. Issues with the family, issues with friends, issues with neighbors, health issues, financial issues, job-related issues. Whatever we find, that process in putting ourselves towards that life to minimize our 3 hours a day watching TV, flipping through the channels, wasting time, and doing a lot of other things that we find that it's really wasteful. And I don't want to denigrate it, but that's the message.